Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the On the Diamond and Into the Deep podcast. As always, I am your host, Mahal, and welcome to episode 87 of the show. Today is a big day. Well, tomorrow's a big day. Well, they're all big days. But this weekend is maybe the biggest weekend in Mariners history. It's maybe the biggest road series in Mariners history. This is the biggest road series. This is probably the biggest series that I can remember for this Mariners team. Yes, they've been in it till the final weekend 3 of the last 4 years. And the year that they didn't, they made the postseason. But each of those years, it wasn't you fighting for a division spot. This year, you are tied for first in the division with 3 series remaining. 9 games to go as you head to the team's ballpark that you are tied with. You head to Houston with an opportunity to dethrone the Houston Astros. This is an opportunity to put yourself as the team to beat potentially next year. This series is going to decide a lot for the rest of the season. And if you win the series, it's no sure thing that you're going to win the division. If you lose the series, it's no sure thing you're not still possibly going to win this division. But it can be very influential and very well might make that impact. So today, I spent my time after the Mariners defeated the Kansas City Royals in Game 3 to win the series. I spent my time looking at the starting pitchers for the Houston Astros on the docket this weekend. I wanted to look at similar things, really the same thing for each of these pitchers. I wanted to have a clear plan, a clear breakdown for each of these starters. Those starters are Hunter Brown, Framber Valdez, and Jason Alexander. They'll be facing off against the Mariners' top 3, probably starters. And Bryan Woo, George Kirby, Logan Gilbert. This series feels like a postseason series. It feels like it's a wild card series. This series is going to decide, number one, who's going to be leading the division as we head into the final week of the season where the Mariners are at home. And number 2 is going to decide the tiebreaker between these two teams. And that matters because let's say the Mariners win 2 of 3 in this series. That puts you a game up on Houston. But basically, you are 2 games up against Houston in that spot. If you lose the series 2 out of 3, it does the opposite. You'd be down a game, but basically down 2 games. A sweep for the Mariners puts you 3 games up, but basically 4. If you go in and get swept, you're down 3, basically 4 games. And this series is going to have big impacts not only in whether or not you win this division, but where you are seated. If you win the division or if you're a wild card team, or even if you make the postseason. Cleveland is hot on the tails now of the wild card spots. Boston is fading very quickly. But Cleveland, I think, has a real opportunity potentially to be in a wild card spot at the end of this weekend. Texas feels like they're all but out at this point. But that second seed in the American League is now up for grabs. To me, whoever wins the AL West is probably going to be that second spot in the division, or in the American League, and getting a bye. To me, it's Detroit or Cleveland, and Cleveland has a spot now on Detroit. They're 3.5 back of Detroit and play Detroit later. They play Detroit next week for 3. So it's not only impact on whether or not you win the division, it's where you're seated. And right now, if I were to predict the playoff field, it's one of the Mariners and Astros in the second seed in the American League, it's one of Detroit or Cleveland in the other, or in the third spot, hosting Boston, Detroit, or Cleveland in that wild card series. And then the other wild card matchup is probably going to be the Yankees and the Mariners or Houston. Because I think for me right now, I'm looking at it right now. This is with 9 games still to go. But the Mariners currently, or the Astros, one of those teams to me is the second seed in the AL, and the other team is the second wild card spot. Now, look, if I'm the Mariners, I'll tell you right now, I don't want that second wild card spot. I would rather have the third wild card spot. Because to me, Yankee Stadium is not a place I want to go. That is the one place I don't want to go and play in this postseason. If I'm ranking among the teams that I think it's likely we could possibly play, the places I least want to go in order of New York. Don't think you're going to be playing in Boston, but Boston, Detroit, Cleveland, Houston, and then, is that all of it? I think that's all of it. But I think I would most want to go to Houston out of all of those. And not because I don't think the Astros are a tough matchup. And we're going to see that this weekend. This is going to basically be a wild card series hosted by Houston. And it's going to be difficult. Don't put that at all to the side. But the Mariners are a better team than the Houston Astros on paper. This is a series you should win on paper. That doesn't mean you're going to win this by any means. Because the Astros are the Astros. As Ben Verlander loves to say, they are inevitable. We'll see if that holds this weekend. Because this weekend is going to be huge. Huge in the playoff picture. So while you face the Houston Astros for 3, Cleveland has the Minnesota Twins, Texas has the Miami Marlins, Boston has the Tampa Bay Rays, the Tigers have the Atlanta Braves, and the New York Yankees have the Baltimore Orioles. You have the most difficult weekend, by far. And if you lose 2 out of 3 or get swept this weekend, the playoff picture is going to look very, very different than it does today, tonight, tomorrow morning. I've said it 3 times-ish now. This is a wild card series. You have to treat it as such, and that means the bullpen is going to be treated as such. And you have an off day Monday, so to me that means your bullpen is going to be putting in work this weekend. I wouldn't be surprised to see multiple pitchers throw all 3 games in this series. I don't think there's going to be too many restrictions and limits because this is your season pretty much. The only guys that I really don't think could go all 3 games are Brizardo and Munoz, and that's only because they pitched today. I wouldn't be surprised if Spire doesn't because he's pitched now 3 days in a row, but he's only thrown 18 pitches in those games. And Brash also probably won't go to all 3 games. But other than that, I don't think there are many restrictions. Quickly, on the Kansas City series, before we get into the series of the year. Kansas City Royals series, the Mariners did what needed to be done, really. I talked on Tuesday about quality starts and the importance of quality starts in the series. And if the Mariners got 3 quality starts, I would have believed that they swept this series. Luis Castillo today. Quality start. Dominant from Luis Castillo. He had traffic, but he got rid of the traffic. He settled in after the first, 2 innings? 3 innings? 2 innings? He settled in dearly, beautifully. To go 6 innings, give up 0 runs for the only quality start. Logan Gilbert basically had a quality start in game 1. And the Mariners won that game. He was 1 out away from a quality start. Bryce Miller only threw 5 innings, and the bullpen gave it up, obviously, Matt Brash. But the Mariners should have swept this series. They should have. Game 1, what a blowout. What a day. Dominic Canzone, 5 for 5 with 3 ding-dongs. Cal Raleigh, obviously, breaking Mantle's record, tying Junior's record. He's now 1 away from breaking Junior's franchise record for home runs in a single season. And I'm going to call it right now. I think Hal gets one into the Crawford boxes on Saturday. I think he does it Saturday. I think he only gets one this weekend, and I think it's going to be Saturday against Framber Valdez. So let's get into this Astros series. Let's break it all down. This is the series of the season. We have teed it up to be that. But what do these teams actually have? What do these starting pitchers that the Mariners are going to face entail? What are these matchups looking like? First, let's look at the lineup and the pen for the Houston Astros. I do want to mention there is the possibility that Isaac Paredes returns tomorrow or sometime this weekend. He has not had any rehab. And it's unknown really if he's at 100% from that hamstring injury. So it is entirely and utterly possible he comes up, is very limited in what he does, or re-aggravates his injury and sucks. It's also entirely possible that he rakes, because that ballpark is a joke for Isaac Paredes, who pulls fly balls like nobody. Let's talk about the Astros bullpen, though. Bryan Abreu, he has been the closer for the Astros since Josh Hader got hurt. They also have 2 really very good lefties at the back of their bullpen, which caused the Mariners a lot of problems in earlier series this season. I don't think that's quite as big of an issue because the Mariners aren't quite so left-handed hitter heavy anymore. You have guys that can hit left-handed pitchers. Josh Naylor can hit left-handed pitching. Gino can hit left-handed pitching. Cal can hit left-handed pitching. Robles can hit left-handed pitching. Rivas can hit left-handed pitching. Garver has been able to mostly hit left-handed pitching. You are able to actually hit left-handed pitching now. And I actually thought they were about short from being able to do that. But I think they were able to do it. So I'm not as scared of the back of this Astros bullpen as I normally would be. That doesn't mean that they won't shut the Mariners down if we get into a 7th, 8th, 9th inning in a 2-run lead for the Astros situation. But it doesn't mean that I'm fearing that like I would if it was one of those lefties, Bryan Abreu and Josh Hader. The Mariners have also been able to mostly hit Bryan Abreu, knock on wood. To me, what I'm looking at with this is when Canzone is starting in right field, probably. I'm expecting Robles to pinch hit later. That's going to be game 1, game 3. But I also think it's entirely possible we see Canzone starting games at the DH spot. So maybe it's Robles and Canzone starting. That wouldn't surprise me, especially because Houston's right field is a fairly large outfield. Not huge by any means, but it's big. So I would expect them to want Robles rather than Canzone out in right field. He's a better defender. So that would not surprise me. And I think your best lineup right now consists of Polanco at second, Canzone DHing, Robles in right field, and then everything else then as it normally would be. I think that's your best lineup right now, and I think that's probably what you're going to roll with for games 1 and game 3 in the series. And honestly, I wouldn't hate if that's what you rolled with in game 2. I would roll that lineup out there game 1, 2, and 3. Especially with an off day Monday. You have to treat this as a wildcard series playing your very, very best players. Now, obviously, game 1 is going to impact what you do in game 2. And game 1 is going to be massive. Absolutely massive. It sets the entire tone for the rest of this series. And to me, I think whoever wins game 1 wins the series. Because I think the Mariners can win game 3 And I'm not sure they're going to win Game 2. So I think Game 1, very possibly, is the deciding game in this series. And I'll tell you, if we go out and win Game 1 and then lose Game 2 and Game 3 is a rubber match between Logan Gilbert and Jason Alexander on Sunday Night Baseball, it's peak baseball, guys. That's peak baseball. That's Game 3 of a wild card series. Prime time. That's the 5 o'clock slot for a wild card Game 3. Stick that in your head. Ponder that. On the Astros lineup, it is less scary than it's been in years past. But Correa and Altuve, they torture the Mariners, and they are clutch. They come up in the big moments. They know how to deal with the big moments. So I'm not at all excited to face them. I'm not excited to face any of the first 4 in their order. Pena, Correa, Altuve, Walker. And if Paredes comes back, that's another one I'm not excited to face, even if he hasn't had time to get his timing back. Brash, Munoz, and Bizardo are going to be huge. Absolutely huge in this series. Because the first 4 in the Astros lineup, and if Paredes comes back, first 5 are all going to be righties. Those are going to be the most dangerous hitters. And you're going to need your right-handed relievers to be able to get those guys out. Spire and Ferguson are not going to get the same usage they normally would. Spire probably still will because he can get righties out. And to me, I think the guy that Spire is going to be called upon to get out is Zach Cole. Just made his debut last week. He's going to be the 9 hitter probably for the Astros in all 3 games. He is in the 89th percentile in sprint speed. He's very rapid. He's rapid. He's quick. He can steal bases. He's going to work and fill base hits. And it's going to be huge that you can keep him off the base paths because him in front of Pena, Correa, Altuve, Walker, that's not an exciting thing to do. That's not a formula for success. Get the outs before the lineup flips. Don't have runners on for the Pena, Correa, Altuve, Walker. If they beat you with solo home runs from those guys, so be it. But don't let them beat you with 3-run homers from Pena, Correa, Altuve, Walker. Don't let that happen. Don't beat yourself, too. Beat them. You can beat them. Make their best hitters beat you. And let's transition into Game 1. Tomorrow night, Hunter Brown, Bryan Woo, each team's ace on the mound. Astros are going to have their whole bullpen available. Spire probably down tomorrow. But I don't think if they need him, he's down. He's only thrown 18 pitches over the 3 days that he's pitched in a row. Like, likely he's down, but if they need him, he's in there. Everyone's available in this series. But let's get into Hunter Brown. Hunter Brown has been very good. He's been dominant in 2025. He has a 2.27 ERA, a whip of 1. Opponents are hitting 196 against him with a 3.08 FIP for the season. 9.91 Ks per 9, 2.74 walks per 9, 0.77 home runs per 9, 28.2 strikeout percentage. That's an almost 8% walk rate. And he's been very good on the road. At home. He's been better at home. A 2.25 ERA at home with a whip under 1. Opponents are hitting under 185 with a FIP of 3.322. Ks per 9 over 10. Walks per 9 below 3. Home runs per 9 at 0.90. Strikeout percentage at 29.5%. Walk percentage at 8.5%. At home, this guy has been very good. He gets his strikeouts. He limits his walks. And as he's done the whole season, he limits home runs. That 30% strikeout rate is no joke. And that's about what he's done against left-handed hitters, too. Against left-handed hitters, he's been very good. Against both, he's been very good. he really does have reverse splits when you look at it. Left-handed hitters, a whip of 1.09. Opponents are hitting 194 with a 3.26 FIP, 11.02 Ks per nine. Huge strikeouts. That's a 31% strikeout rate, basically. Walks per nine, just at 3.5. So it's not necessarily reverse splits, depends on what you look at. But home runs per nine, under 1, again. And a walk rate over 10. He's going to walk left-handed hitters. Part of that's due to the pitches he throws. That's due to that arsenal. But he has a very good changeup, and it's going to work against lefties. And the Mariners have struggled against changeups, like they did last year. Versus right-handed hitters, a whip under 1. Opponents are hitting about 200, just over. 2.89 FIP. 8.75 Ks per nine, 1.79 walks per nine, 0.63 home runs per nine, a 25% walk or home run rate, or 25% strikeout rate, and a 5% walk rate. In the second half, he has been dominant, virtually unhittable. 1.97 ERA, 1.10 WHIP, 2.14 opponents are hitting against him, a 3.06 FIP. 834 Ks per nine, 288 walks per nine, 046 home runs per nine. 23% strikeout rate in the second half and an 8% walk rate in the second half. ERA-wise, he's been a lot better in the second half. He's been dominant in the second half. He's not giving up runs. He's been very good recently. Versus the Mariners, this year he's had 2 starts. Both were in Seattle. He's thrown a combined 10 innings, given up 8 hits combined, 3 earnies, 2 walks, 1 hit by pitch, and 10 strikeouts. At home, at what used to be Minute Maid, Hunter Brown last year at home against the Mariners. He had 2 starts against the Mariners at home, 10 and a third innings pitched, 8 hits, 3 earnies, 7 walks, 1 hit by pitch, and 13 Ks. This guy is very good. He's a very good pitcher. He's been elite at limiting hard hit. He's in the 97th percentile for that and 97th percentile also for average exit velocity. He also gets a ton of ground balls. 47% ground ball rate. That's in the 73rd percentile, and that limits the home run balls. And Astros pitchers have to do that, especially at home, due to the Crawford boxes. He's a 53% air rate. So the ball is in the air 53% of the time, which makes sense because 47% of the time it's on the ground. That is below league average. 55.7% is the MLB average on air percentage. He is at 53. When it is in the air, he's also below average at getting pop-outs. MLB average is 7.1% pop-up. He's at 6.5. So when it's in the air, it's fly balls and line drives. Hunter Brown has a 6-pitch mix. Only 4 of them eclipse 10% of the time, though. The highest of them all is his four-seam fastball at 38.8% of the time. That averages 96.6 miles an hour. It's used mostly against left-handed hitters, or more against left-handed hitters. Opponents are hitting 179 against it with a 262 slug and a 30% whiff rate. The sinker, used 21.5% of the time, averages 95.7 miles an hour. This is used more against right-handed hitters, so he's going to use the sinker more against right-handed hitters, four-seam more against left-handed hitters. Opponents are hitting 243 against the sinker with a 329 slug and a 17% whiff rate. That is the ground ball pitch. That is what is helping him get that 47% ground ball rate. He throws a knuckle curve at 17.5% of the time. That averages 83.5 miles an hour. That's against left-handed hitters, but it is fairly even. Opponents are hitting 154 with a 205 slug and a 37% whiff rate against that. That is the strikeout pitch most of the time for him. He throws a changeup at 12.1% of the time. That averages 88 miles an hour. This is heavily and almost virtually only to left-handed hitters. Hitters are hitting 195 against it with a 366 slug and a 26% whiff rate. So left-handed hitters are going to get a larger combo of pitches. Right-handed hitters are going to see mostly sinker knuckle curve with the fastball mix in as well. Left-handed hitters are going to see the four-seam, the knuckle curve, and the changeup. There's also a cutter and a slider, both for Hunter Brown. but they are both virtually exclusive to right-handed hitters. Hunter Brown will be on 6 days rest. He's on an extra day. They restarted their rotation. He last pitched last Saturday against Atlanta. In that start, he went 6 2/3 innings, gave up 4 hits, 2 runs, 1 walk, and only 2 strikeouts. Quickly on Bryan Woo, he's had 1 start against Houston this year. 6 innings, 10 hits, 2 earnings, no walks, 5 Ks. That was in Houston. That's his 1 start in Houston this year. Moving on to Game 2. This is the only lefty the Mariners will face. They're facing Framber Valdez. George Kirby is on the bump for the Seattle Mariners. This is going to be the right-handed hitting lineup. This is going to be Mitch Garver. This is going to be Victor Robles. This is going to be Bigford Gino. This is going to be Polanco, Julio, Randy, Polanco. This lineup is the only difference between this and the other lineup is probably going to be Naylor and Gino flipped. To me, this is a chance for right-handed hitters to take advantage of the Crawford boxes. Framber Valdez is, as we know, we've mentioned it multiple times this season, he is a ground ball pitcher, heavy ground ball pitcher, and it's going to be difficult to lift balls. But if you do, pull them to the Crawford boxes and get some pop-up home runs. On Framber Valdez, he has struggled more this year, specifically in the second half, than he has in the past. But he's still a very good pitcher. 3.59 ERA with a 1.22 WHIP, 2.33 opponent's average against him, a 3.32 FIP. His FIP is better than his ERA. 8.63 Ks per 9, 3.09 walks per 9, 0.65 home runs per 9, 23% strikeout rate, and an 8.3% walk rate. At home, he has been dominant. Much better at home. 2.21 ERA, 1.10 WHIP, a 2.17 opponent average against him, and a 2.84 FIP. His strikeouts per 9 are at 984, walks per 9, 281, home runs per 9 at 060, 27% strikeout rate, and an almost 8% walk rate. Versus left-handed hitters, 126 WHIP, 256 opponent average, 337 FIP, 783 Ks per 9, 270 walks per 9, 108 home runs per 9, and a 21% strikeout rate and a 7.2% walk rate. Not very many left-handed hitters face him because he is very good against left-handed pitchers, especially historically. So I wouldn't expect a huge sum of left-handed hitters, even though they are actually hitting better against him so far this year. Against right-handed hitters, a 121 WHIP, a 231 opponent average, a 334 FIP, and 882 Ks per 9, 318 walks per 9, and an 055 home runs per 9. 23.5% strikeout rate and an 8.5% walk rate. In the second half, Framber Valdez has struggled. Very much so struggled. 5.31 ERA, a 1.42 WHIP, a 2.76 opponent average. Opponents are nearly hitting 300 against him, and a 3.79 FIP. Ks per 9 is under 7.3, walks per 9 over 3, home runs per 9 at 0.76, 18% strikeout rate, almost 19, and an 8% walk rate. This guy's going to be ground balls heavy. It's going to be whether you can find holes, and that's partially going to be luck. Against the Mariners this year, he has had 1 start in each stadium. In the start at home, he threw 6 innings, 4 hits, 1 earned, 4 walks, and 5 Ks. Combined, he's thrown 12 innings against the Mariners, giving up just 6 hits, 1 earned run, 5 walks, and 13 Ks. Looking at Savant page, he is elite, like we said, at ground ball percentage. He's in the 97th percentile on that. He's also been good at limiting barrel percentage, which makes sense with those two things combined, as he's in the 70th percentile at barrel. That said, the ground balls are hit hard. He's in the 11th percentile of hard hit percentage and the 15th in average exit velocity. Framber Valdez is mostly a 3-pitch mix. 3 of them are over 10%, but he does have technically 5 pitches. The sinker is what he throws most of the time. That's at 43.8% of the time. That averages 94 miles an hour. It is going to be mostly thrown against right-handed hitters, as all his pitches really are. Opponents are hitting 290 against that with a 394 slug and a 12% whiff. That is the ground ball pitch, just like Hunter Brown. Throws a curveball 32.5% of the time. That averages almost 80 miles an hour. Again, right-handed hitters more so. Opponents are hitting under 200 against that with a 287 slug and a 43% whiff rate. He throws the changeup next most. That's at 18.5%. He averages 90 miles an hour on that. That is almost exclusively of right-handed hitters. Left-handed hitters are not seeing that very much. as the slider is more so the pitch against left-handed hitters. Against the changeup, though, hitters are hitting .205 with a .393 slug and a 30% whiff rate. The slider, like I said, is the pitch that he's going to use against left-handed hitters to get the swing and miss, and it's very rarely used against right-handed hitters. He also does have a four-seam, but that is going to be almost exclusively used against right-handed hitters when he randomly uses it at 1.6% of the time. Like we said, he's going to get a lot of ground balls. That's because a lot of hitters top the ball. 44.7% topped percentage. The MLB average on that is 32.5%. So he's very much so above league average on that. And that's part of why he gets all those ground balls. I mean, it's really why he gets all those ground balls. When it is in the air, it is more so line drive than anything else. He's below average in pop-up and fly ball percentage. He's above average in line drive percentage. You're going to need some BABIP luck. And over the past 2 starts, he has been a little bit rough. 9 runs, 8 earned in his last 2 starts. Only 4 innings his last time out. He is on 6 days rest, just like Hunter Brown, though, so he has an extra day and is better at home, like we mentioned. I would expect the good Framber Valdez on Saturday. George Kirby has had 1 start against Houston. It was his first start of the season, to take that into account. He threw 3 2/3 innings, 6 hits, 5 runs, 1 walk, and 4 Ks. That was on May 22nd. Mostly on the road, he's been a bad start, a good start, a bad start, a good start. And in his last start, it was bad. He got touched up for 8 runs by the Tampa Rays over only 2 innings. I would expect the best out of every starter this weekend. I'm expecting the best out of everybody this weekend. Everybody's going to be playing their very hardest, their very best. So expect the best version of Jose Altuve, Carlos Correa, Framber Valdez. Sunday, Game 3, Sunday Night Baseball. I have a pick to click in this game. My pick to click is the guy that shines under the light more than anyone. It's Randy Arozarena. And the Mariners tend to play well under the lights. They tend to do well in primetime games. They had 1 Sunday Night Baseball game last year. It was at T-Mobile Park, the first in a long, long time. And they played very well. That said, you have to keep playing well. Hopefully you're going for a sweep here, but we'll see what happens. This is the moment that your best players need to step up. This series is when you need your best players to step up. You need the good Eugenio Suarez. You need the good Julio. You need the good Cal. You need the good Randy. You need the good Josh Naylor. You need the good Jorge Polanco like he's been recently. Mariners are facing Jason Alexander. He has pitched for 2 teams this year and has been very good with Houston. On the year overall, he has a ERA over 4, a whip over 1.3. Opponents are hitting .250 against him with a .479 FIP, a Ks per 9 of 7.57, walks per 9 over 3, home runs per 9 over 1.5, 19.5 K strikeout rate, and 7.8% walk rate. With Houston, though, he's been very good. He started 11 games with Houston. He has a .276 ERA, a 1.16 whip. Opponents are hitting .231 against him with a .427 FIP. He has overperformed, according to ERA versus FIP. 7.5 strikeouts per 9, 2.5 walks per 9, 1.2 home runs per 9, strikeout rate over 20%, and a walk rate of just 7%. At home this year, this is for both teams. A .450 ERA, 32 innings. He's given up 37 hits, 16 earnies, 8 home runs, 8 walks, 34 Ks. And pardon me, that is at Houston. That is in Houston on the at home. Versus left-handed hitters on the year, he is for both teams now. He has a whip of 141. Opponents are hitting .260 against him and a FIP over 5. Left-handed hitters will be the key to your matchup against Jason Alexander. And you have good left-handed hitters, so I think this is the type of matchup you can take advantage of. Strikeout per 9, under 7. Walks per 9, almost 3.7. Home runs per 9, over 1.5. You're going to hit a home run very likely against him. Strikeout percentage at 18%. Walk percentage over 9.5%. Right-handed hitters have struggled more so, though. A whip of 118. Opponents are hitting just .238 against him, and a FIP of 432. Strikeouts per 9 jump to almost 8.5. Walks per 9 diminish to nearly 2. Home runs per 9 get below 1.5. Strikeout rate is above 20. Walk rate is below 6%. In the second half, he's been very good. An ERA of 2.88, a whip of 1.17. Opponents are hitting 243 against him, a FIP of 4.34, strikeout per 9 of 7.83, walks per 9 of 2.24, home runs per 9 of 1.44, strikeout rate over 21%, and a walk rate of 6%. He has not faced the Mariners this year, so they have not seen him, and that is going to play a role. I would expect this to be the type of matchup where the Mariners, it takes them 1 or 2 times through the order to start hitting this guy. But I expect as soon as that 4th inning hits, the Mariners to score some runs, and it's going to be important for Logan Gilbert to keep them in it. When looking at his Savant page, he is not getting any chase. He's in the first percentile of chase rate, and he gets hit hard. He's in the 10th percentile of hard hit rate, and he's not really overpowering, which makes sense why he's there. 91.1 mile an hour average on the fastball. His xERA is over. There's nearly 4.5, and opponents are expected to hit 270 against him. He's a 6-pitch mix, basically 4 pitches over 10%. One of them is the 4-seam that he throws 9.8% of the time, so it's basically 10. He mostly uses a sinker. At 40.3% of the time, he averages nearly 91 miles an hour on that. He uses it against both handednesses. Opponents are hitting 328 against it with a 454 slug and just a 5.7% whiff rate. Next pitch he uses is the changeup. He averages 90 miles an hour on that, 90.3. So there's not a big differential between that and the sinker. And opponents are hitting 173 against that with a 423 slug and a 41% whiff rate. He then throws a sweeper at nearly 16% of the time at 78.5 miles an hour. That is used mostly against left-handed hitters, as are most of his pitches, as he mostly faces left-handed hitters. Opponents are hitting 280 against it with a 531 slug. The question for Alexander is if that changeup is going to be working for him. Opponents are still whiffing 26% of the time, though, on that sweeper, and that is going to be the pitch he uses against right-handed hitters. He then throws a 4-seam fastball 9.8% of the time, like we mentioned already. That averages just about 92 miles an hour, 143 opponent average, 286 opponent slug, and a 25% whiff rate against that. He also has a cutter and slider. Those are almost never used, though. The biggest difference in usage for him between left-handed hitters and right-handed hitters is the more changeup versus left-handed hitters and more sinker versus right-handed hitters. He's about average in fly ball and ground ball. He is above average in fly ball percentage at 1.1%, and he's also slightly above average in ground ball percentage, which kind of doesn't really make sense, but whatever. And again, like I said, Mariners haven't seen this guy, and I would expect them to have to hit him the second time through the order and see him once. He has given up 3 runs in each of his last 3 home starts, and if the Mariners can get 3 runs, I will be very pleased. Logan Gilbert this year has had 1 start versus Houston, and it was in Seattle. He threw 5 2/3 innings, 1 hit, 1 run, 1 walk, 7 strikeouts. In his 2 starts in Houston last year, he was very dominant in one of them and less dominant in the other. Earlier in the year, he had a very dominant 8 innings of scoreless 2-hit baseball. The other was a late season start when everyone started to fade. He gave up 4 runs on 5 hits over 6 innings. Last few notes from me on today's episode. Thank you guys so much for listening. This has been episode 87. If you haven't already, make sure you follow at Diamond on Deep on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, Blue Sky, YouTube, all that jazz. Make sure you listen wherever you get your podcasts. Watch on YouTube, again, at Diamond and Deep, and on the Diamond and Into the Deep if you are searching it. This is the biggest series in recent Mariners history, regular season at least. Biggest non-playoff series in recent Mariners history. I will be watching every game very closely. And we will probably be back Monday or Tuesday to break down what happens in this series, if not Sunday night. As always, go M's, and peace, y'all.